Hello everyone, today we will explore how different market structures work with a focus on pure competition. So we will cover characteristics of competition, demand and revenue curves, profit maximization strategies, long-run supply curves, and finally efficiency and innovation in competitive environments. So let's first start by looking at four types of market structures. In a pure competition, we have many sellers and they sell standardized products and they have no control over prices. So let me give one example for pure competition. Let's think about farmers in an area that are many farmers, not one, many farmers, and they are all selling milk to an intermediary. And they are now selling standardized products because the milk from one farmer you buy is not different than the milk you buy from another farmer. Therefore, since if they sell identical products, they have no control over the prices. The price is determined by total market demand and total market supply in the market. Let's say market price is $3 per gallon. Then a farmer who would like to sell at $3.2 are not going to find any buyer in the market. The reason is because the milk is exactly the same. Instead of buying from a farmer who sells at 3.2, you can buy from someone who sells at $3, which are the remaining farmers. Therefore, as you see, the farmers do not have control over the price. And the next one is monopolistic competition. And monopolistic competition, oligopoly and pure monopoly, is under imperfect competition. Pure monopoly doesn't have even any competition. In monopolistic competition, we have many sellers but differentiated products and some control over prices. So again, we have many sellers, but in this case, think about like coffee shops in the market. They're selling coffee, but the coffee is not the same because the menus could be different from one coffee shop to another. For that reason, the owners of the coffee shops, by differentiating their menu, they are actually charging different prices to their menu items on the menu. That's why they have some control over prices, and that's called monopolistic competition. In oligopoly, we have few dominant large firms in the market. So there might be many firms, but 3-4 of them are large and they produce large quantities in the market. For example, if I ask you how many phone services you can say, you can probably recall we have 3 dominant ones: AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon. And this is a good example of oligopoly. In pure monopoly, there's only one seller and no substitutes and complete control over prices. The monopolies are actually illegal in the United States, but there are companies who could behave like monopoly. A good example could be Microsoft. So here you see this table, and here this table shows the key characteristics of the four models. In pure competition, a large number of firms selling identical products, no control over prices, and easy market entry. In monopolistic competition, many firms, differentiated products, and they have some pricing power. In oligopoly, a few firms with significant control over prices, and in monopoly, a single firm dominates the market with unique products and strong barriers to entry. So let's start with pure competition. Pure competition has several important features. There are a large number of sellers. That means no one firm can affect the market price. They sell standardized product. That means products are identical and consumers are indifferent to who they buy from. And they are price takers. Firms must accept the market price. And free entry and exit. Firms can enter and leave the market without significant barriers. Again, a good example is the case of farmers. They have identical products, milk. They can enter and exit the industry anytime they want. They just need to sell their land or the animals, then they can exit. And if they want to enter, they don't need huge capital investment. It's easy to enter. There are no strong barriers to enter to this market. And they are price takers because if they want to increase their prices, nobody's going to buy from them because the buyers know that all sellers have the identical products. In a purely competitive market, the firm faces perfectly elastic demand, meaning the firm can sell as much as it wants at the market price. The demand curve is a horizontal line showing that price does not change no matter how much is produced. So here is the demand curve. This is the price, this is the quantity, and demand curve is perfectly elastic. The reason is that if they change prices even very small amount, they lose all their customers. Nobody is going to buy from them. But at the market price, this is the market price, they can sell as much as they want. In this graph, the demand curve D is a horizontal line, as you can see, and it's at the market price, which is $131, indicating the firm can sell any quantity at this price. The total revenue curve is upward sloping, and because each unit it sold brings in $131. Let's see here, total revenue is price times quantity. So price is 131. So you sell one unit, 1 times 131, you have 131. You sell 2 units, 131 times 2, 262. As you see, total revenues are increasing by 131 as you sell additional units. That's why total revenue is an upward sloping curve. And the margin revenue is the change in revenue as you sell one more unit. For instance, you sell from no unit to 1 unit, the total revenue increases by 131. And you sell from 1 to 2nd unit, total revenue increases by 131. Therefore, marginal revenue is the same as the price of the product. That's why demand equals marginal revenue here. And when we calculate the average revenue, we find the same result because you take 262, divide this by 2 units you produce, spread over the revenue over 2 units, you get 131. The same is true for 393 divided by 331 and so on. Therefore, we find out that marginal revenue and average revenue are both equal to the price and also represented by the demand curve in this perfectly competitive market structure. There are other terms we need to know. The first one is average revenue. This is the revenue per unit which equals the price of the good. Average revenue is TR divided by quantity. Total revenue, TR, this is calculated by multiplying the price by quantity sold. TR is equal to P times quantity sold. Marginal revenue, this is the additional revenue from selling one more unit. Marginal revenue is change in total revenue divided by change in quantity. So there are several approaches for profit maximization. The first approach is to find the difference between TR and TC approach. Firms maximize profit by producing the quantity where total revenue exceeds total cost by the greatest amount. And the break-even point is when total revenue equals total cost. At this point, the firm earns a normal profit, which means no economic profit, but there is accounting profit. And this table shows the cost and revenue for different levels of the production. And you will see that the difference between total revenue and total cost is highest, or total revenue exceeds the total cost at greatest amount when you produce 9 units, which is 299. Therefore, the profit maximizing unit is 9 units. And here the total revenue, TR, which is an upward sloping curve, and total cost curve show that profit is maximized at 9 units. Why? Because the distance between TR and TC is highest at 9 units. That's why we choose this units. If you want to graph the difference between these two curves on a different separate figure, you realize that at 2 units, they are equal to each other. TR equals TC. That's why its profit is 0. And as you increase the production from 2 to 9 units, the distance between two curves are increasing. And at 9 units, it reaches the maximum. And then after 9 units, the distance between two curves are decreasing. And they are equal to 0 between 13 and 14 units. Now, the second approach to profit maximization is the rule where MR equals MC. So to maximize profit, firms should produce where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. The firm here asks 3 questions. Should the firm produce? What quantity should be produced? What will be the profit or loss? Here, this table shows how firms compare marginal revenue with marginal cost. As long as MR is greater than MC, the firm should increase output. Like here, you see MR is greater than MC. So you are adding to the total profit because the benefit of selling additional unit 131 is higher than to make that unit. And you continue until here. At this point, you are maximizing the profit because marginal revenue exceeds marginal cost, but with the lowest possible amount. And that point gives us the profit maximizing quantity. And the graph illustrates profit maximization in the short run. The firm produces 9 units. How do we know? We know that we need to find MR equals MC point. And these two numbers are equal when these two curves intersect to each other. MR equals P and MC equals at this point, and go down and read the quantity at 9 units. This firm is maximizing profit. And at 9 units, the price is 131. And the cost is, in order to find per unit cost, you go up to the cost curve. You find out that it's $100. So this firm is making $31 per unit profit, right? Because they're selling at 131 and producing at $100. And per unit, they are making $31 of profit. And if you want to find the total economic profit of producing 9 units, you need to multiply this 31 by the amount of units produced. So that is the green rectangular area. So this distance, height, times the base, which is 9, is going to give you the total economic profit. And the next case is loss minimization case. Sometimes a firm may produce and still incur losses. In the loss minimizing case, the firm continues to operate as long as it can cover its variable costs. If it doesn't cover its variable costs, it needs to shut down in the short run. And if marginal revenue, MR, is greater than average variable cost, it's better to produce and minimize losses rather than shut down completely. So here is the table. This table shows the firm's costs and revenues when operating at a loss. And when you look at here, the minimum loss, the loss is the difference between total revenue and total cost. And the minimum loss is when you produce 6 units of output. It's not 0 units, because at 0 units you're making $100 of fixed cost as a loss. And producing 6 units minimizes the firm's loss. If the firm shuts down, it incurs a loss equal to its fixed cost, which is $100. Okay, so if you choose to shut down, you will lose $100. But if you continue to operate, then you're going to make a loss of $64, which is better. The reason is it can cover some of its fixed costs, reducing the total loss. So here you will see the figure of loss minimizing firm. If the price falls below the average variable cost, the firm should shut down in the short run. Let's find out first loss minimization point. MC equals MR is the rule. MC is here, MR is here, and they intersect here, this point. So that means this firm needs to produce 6 units of output. At 6 units of output, price, which is here, as you see here, is less than per unit cost of producing that unit. So you're making a loss of this much, the difference between ATC and price. And if you want to calculate the entire loss, you will multiply this number, this difference, with the base, which is 6 units. And you will find out this red rectangular area is the loss. And if price is below the AVC, here the price is above the AVC, but if the price is somewhere like here, this firm is better to shut down rather than operate in the short run. So if the price falls below average variable cost, AVC, in this figure you see that price is below the AVC, the firm should shut down in the short run. And this graph shows the shutdown point where no level of output will cover variable cost, and the firm is better off not producing. In the short run, the firm's supply curve is the portion of marginal cost curve that lies above the average variable cost curve. This is because the firm will only produce if the price covers at least average variable cost curve. So the supply curve for a competitive firm is determined by the marginal cost curve above the average variable cost curve. The firm follows the rule MR equals MC to determine how much to produce at different price level. And here you see that how the marginal cost curve becomes the short-run supply curve. The firm only produces if the price is at or above average variable cost. The part of the MC curve above AVC curve is the firm's supply curve. Here, from here to until here is the supply curve. But the firm is making positive profits here because the price exceeds ATC. Here is not making a profit, it makes a loss, but you need to find loss minimization point. And therefore it continues to operate in the short run. It's better to operate because you can cover some of your fixed costs in the short run. To determine the optimal output, the firm must answer 3 questions, as we said. Should the firm produce? Yes, if the price is greater than or equal to average variable cost, the firm should produce in the short run. What quantity should be produced? Produce where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And the third question is, will the firm earn an economic profit? Yes, if the price is above average total cost curve, then it makes a profit, otherwise make a loss, and we need to find loss minimization point by again checking MR equals MC. In pure competition, the market sets a price where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. Think of this like a farmer's market with many sellers offering similar apples. The price for apples is set by the market based on how many apples are available and how many people want to buy. If more apples are supplied than people want, the price will drop. If fewer apples are available, the price will rise. And here you can see the firm's market and supply and market demand curve. And this figure shows how market price is determined. Market price is determined by the quantity demanded in the market and quantity supplied in the market. And when they are equal, then we will have the product price. This graph shows how a firm reaches equilibrium in the short run. For the firm, the price is fixed. It's a straight line at $111, but the supply curve slopes upward as more is produced. Here in this case, I want you to think there's a bakery. Which bakery can sell bread at $111 per batch? As the bakery produces more, it follows the rule MR equals MC to find the most profitable output level. In this slide, we talk about the fallacy of composition, which means that what is true for one part isn't necessarily true for the whole. For example, if one person stands up at a concert, they might see better, but if everyone stands up, no one has an advantage anymore. In economics, the same idea applies. If one farmer sells more apples, it won't affect the price much, but if all farmers try to sell more, prices will drop. By supplying more to the market, prices are going to go down, so every farmer has to sell at a lower price. In the long run, firms can enter or exit the market in pure competition. For example, in the technology industry, if there are high profits in making smartphones, more companies will enter the market. If the profits decrease, companies may stop making smartphones or switch to something else. This ability to adjust is what defines the long-run scenario for the pure competition. And what are the assumptions in the long run? First of all, we assume firms can easily enter or exit the industry, and all firms have the same cost structure. Changes in the number of firms don't affect resource prices. For example, if many farmers start growing strawberries, we assume the price of fertilizers and land doesn't change. This is called a constant cost industry. And long-run equilibrium, entry eliminates profits. New firms enter the industry, therefore supply increases and prices fall until only normal profit or zero economic profit remains. And exit eliminates losses. If firms are losing money, they leave the market, reducing supply, which raises prices until losses disappear. For example, if coffee shops in a city make high profits, new shops will open, driving profits down. If too many open, some shops will close due to low profits, bringing the market back to the equilibrium. And in the long run, firms adjust to maximize profits or minimize losses. For example, if a bakery finds that by increasing production they lower their average cost, they will expand until they reach a point where no further cost reductions are possible. At this point, price equals the lowest possible average total cost. So there could be temporary profits, but there is going to be a re-establishment of long-run equilibrium. When demand for a product suddenly rises, like if a new diet makes apples very popular, so demand rises with the given supply curve, the price is now higher from 50 to 60, a shift of demand curve and intersection of the existing supply curve. And this will encourage new firms to enter to the market. When new firms enter to the market, the supply curve is going to shift to the right, and therefore we reach back to the same price. So we see the reestablishment of long-run equilibrium. The new Apple firms enter to the market, increasing supply and eventually lowering the price back to its original level. And let's think about the reverse case, temporary losses and the reestablishment of the long-run equilibrium. If demand falls, like fewer people buying CDs as they shift to the streaming, firms will lose money. Some firms will leave the market at this existing price, reducing supply and eventually raising prices again as the market adjusts to the new lower demand. And let's talk about long-run supply curves. We have three types of long-run supply curves. The first one is constant cost industry. The supply curve is flat because costs do not change as firms enter or exit. Increasing cost industry, the supply curve slopes upward because costs increase as more firms enter. For example, as more people start farming, land and land prices rise, so the cost rises. Decreasing cost industry, the supply curve slopes downward. For example, in the tech industry, the more companies enter, the cheaper production costs become due to improved technology and economies of scale. And here we are talking about long-run supply curve. Here you see in long run supply curve for a constant cost industry. In a constant cost industry, the entry or exit of firms doesn't change resource prices, so the long run supply curve is horizontal. For example, if the market for t-shirts expands, more companies can enter without increasing the cost of cotton, labor, or machinery. And you're seeing here an upward sloping long run supply curve. In an increase cost industry, as firms enter, the cost of resources rises. For instance, as more people start building houses, the price of building materials like wood, labor increases, making it more expensive to produce each additional house. And this is a decreasing cost industry, and costs drop as more firms enter. For example, in the electronics industry, the more companies that produce smartphones, the cheaper the parts like chips and screens become due to mass production and technological improvements, which lowers the cost for everyone. And what happens in the long run? In the long run, pure competition achieves productive efficiency, producing at the lowest cost, and allocative efficiency, producing the right amount of goods that society values most. In other words, firms use resources in the best possible way. For example, farmers grow just the right amount of crops to meet society's demand at the lowest cost. In a purely competitive market, we achieve productive efficiency, goods are produced at the lowest possible cost, and we achieve allocative efficiency, resources are used in a way that maximizes society's welfare. For example, in a competitive market for bread, bakeries will produce the right amount of bread that people want in the long run at the lowest possible cost, and ensuring both efficiency and satisfaction. And in a purely competitive market, prices automatically adjust to changes in consumer taste, resource availability, and technology. This is called the invisible hand of the market. For example, if people start preferring electric cars over gasoline cars, the market will shift production to electric cars without needing central planning or control. Competition encourages innovation. Firms will try to find new technologies or methods to lower costs and increase profits. For instance, online retailers like Amazon innovated by creating better supply chains, allowing them to offer lower prices than traditional stores, attracting more consumers. And finally, let's talk about creative destruction. Creative destruction happens when new technologies or products replace old ones. For example, smartphones have replaced digital cameras, MP3 players, and even GPS devices. As new products emerge, older technologies and businesses are pushed out of the market. And here, let's briefly talk about pandemic pause. The COVID-19 pandemic led to a decline in revenues for many industries like restaurants, hotels, and rental car companies. Some businesses shut down temporarily because they couldn't cover their costs, while others adapted by cutting down on costs, like hotels reducing staff or rental car companies selling off cars. So this is all about pure competition. I hope this helps you to understand the pure competition when you read your textbook. Thank you for watching this video.